Hey guys, Dr. Rebecca Warren here from doctorswarren.com. So if you guys hear me loud, I am using a new microphone here, so I apologize. I get really excited when I talk about hormones. So this week, Dr. Nathan and I are going to be focusing all of our videos on hormones and most commonly asked questions that we get. And so today, I drew this beautiful chart for you guys, just being more aware of what your body is telling you. Anytime we're coaching someone within our clinic or if we're virtual coaching, our biggest goal for women is to allow them to feel in tune with their body, to feel powerful about their bodies, and to understand what their bodies are communicating. I don't like to focus on dysfunction all the time. I love to focus on wellness. But the truth is, far too many women have gone through and are still going through all these different symptoms that they're experiencing in their bodies and are not having the right guidance and understanding that it's all related to their hormones. Their doctors will look at them and say, well, you know, everything looks good, or they do labs, they're not doing the right labs for them. Or in the end, they get offered whether that's a medication for their thyroid, a medication for the depression, a medication for their anxiety, or medication for their hormone issues. And so this first video that I am doing today, this Facebook Live, is focusing on some symptoms that you can experience throughout your cycle that can let you know, hey, something is off. And the one thing I want you to understand too is that when one is off, you're not this broken down separate system. If one hormone is off, guess what? It's influencing a whole cascade of things. So oftentimes you can see these symptoms overlapping. I also want you to understand kind of what's going on with your cycle if you have your cycle, and if you don't have your cycle, understanding what did happen. Because a lot of people will suffer with hormone issues throughout their whole life, and they're able to manage it whether through medication or having a hysterectomy, but it all shows up again, and it's really hard when they're going through perimenopause or menopause. So that might be you. So understanding these symptoms that you experienced when you were younger or when you had your cycle will really make a connection in your mind of what can be happening right now going through perimenopause and menopause. And if you guys do have your cycle, this can get you a better idea whether, you know, whether you're on birth control because you're having symptoms or whether you're trying to get pregnant and you're not able to get pregnant. So let's go ahead and do a recap. I've done a Facebook Live talking about the charting method, looking at your basal body temperature, looking at cervical fluid, and looking at cervix positioning. But just kind of as a recap, this is a chart. Really what we're looking at is a full cycle. So a full cycle for a woman is the first day of their menstrual cycle to the next menstrual cycle. And so really most women tend to just chart that. They'll look at when they had their cycle to when they have their cycle, but there's so much more information there. So make sure you check out my charting Facebook Live video or the video that we'll have on our YouTube channel. So the one thing I want you to look at here with this chart is that from here to here will be like your menstrual cycle that can vary, all right? But this first part of your cycle is considered the follicular phase, and that's when your estrogen is rising, and that's when you're getting ready to ovulate. One thing you have to understand about this phase, a lot of times doctors will say that it's you ovulate on day 14. That's not the same for everyone. In fact, it might not be the same for you from one cycle to the next. This part of your cycle can vary. This part, the luteal phase, will not vary. This will vary. Let's say like if you're under stress, if you're moving, if your thyroid is off, this phase can take longer. So you might not ovulate on day 14, you might ovulate on day 21. You might ovulate even later than that. It all depends on you. So how do you know for sure? Check your basal body temperature, track your cervical fluid, and you can check your cervix. But this part of your cycle, this is what's happening with your estrogen. Your estrogen is rising, it's peaking, and then it's coming straight down. And then as that's happening, your progesterone is rising, and it's going to rise up. You're going to see estrogen rise up again in the second phase and then come back down when you start your menstrual cycle. I want you to understand that because the best time to do your blood work, if you have a menstrual cycle, to do your blood work for your sex hormones is going to be day 21. I have women that bring in labs from their doctors and they want me to look at it, and I'll ask them, okay, so where were you in the cycle when you had your blood work? They don't even know. They weren't taught by their OBGYN to track their cycles, or to care about their cycles, and they just do the test whenever. So they don't even know. I don't know when it is. But the best time to test on blood work is day 21 of your cycle, because that's when progesterone and estrogen will rise again. So let's look at some symptoms. There's different combinations. You can have problems with your DHEA or testosterone, your thyroid, but I'm going to focus on the two most common things we see when we're coaching women in our office and virtually. So right here in red, we're looking at estrogen dominance. And again, like I said at the beginning of this video, we tend to see estrogen dominance come along with low progesterone. So you could probably have these symptoms interchangeably when one of those hormones are off. But the most common thing that you can see with people that have estrogen dominance is heavy periods, painful periods, fibroids, headaches, migraine, bloating, puffiness, and some gallbladder issues. In fact, I had someone in my office that was having gallbladder attacks, and when we started charting her cycle, we saw that there was a pattern to them. When we started getting back to looking at what was happening with her basal body temperature and her ovulation, we saw that there was a pattern along with it. So we were able to supplement and support the body leading up to when her cycle was starting, and we saw a change with those gallbladders. So imagine how many women have had their gallbladders taken out when it could have been one of the first signs that there's an estrogen issue going on. Another thing is fibroids. A lot of women don't realize that they have fibroids until pregnancy, or they have a C-section, but this is another sign of estrogen dominance going on. Heavy and painful periods. The problem with a lot of these hormone symptoms is that for the last decades, we have treated PMS kind of like as a joke. We've said, oh, you're PMSing, oh, you're really mean, and you're, just treating everyone like crap, or, oh my gosh, you took like 6 Midol. Really, PMS has kind of become this thing that even young women think that it's normal to experience certain things. Oh, well, cramping's a part of it. Well, not cramping horribly where you have to take the first day of your period off, or that you have heavy bleeding that you have to change out your pad or your tampon like all 7 days or all 5 days constantly throughout the day. So what I find is that a lot of times women have thought something was off, but thought that was just maybe what their menstrual cycle is like. So all of that. How about headaches and migraines? When you start to get your period and you're like, oh, I have this really bad headache or a migraine, or women say that it's hormonal. Just because you say that it's hormonal doesn't fix the problem or make it any better. If you think it's hormonal, track your cycle and see, is it that, and then address the hormone imbalance. And then low progesterone. Progesterone is huge. It works on GABA receptors in the brain. So it's considered a neuroendocrine hormone. What does that mean? It makes you feel full and happy. When it's off and you're low, you're weepy, you're anxious, you can get depressed. And again, when women feel these emotions, it's like you feel off, but you can't put your finger on it. Even if you have a million things in your life to be thankful for, if your progesterone is low, you can have those mental wellness symptoms that are showing that neurologically something's up. Like you don't feel well, and it's not all in your head. So some other symptoms of low progesterone. So PMS symptoms, 7 to 10 days before your period. PMS symptoms. I had a young girl in the office that was really struggling with depression and anxiety. And again, we looked at the cycle and we're able to see that about 10 days before her cycle, it got worse. She got more anxious and she couldn't control it. Well, guess what we're looking at and working at? Progesterone. When you work with boosting that progesterone, you can see a change in those symptoms, okay? Feeling anxious often. Think about all these kind of like, mental wellness symptoms that can be difficult. Look at the progesterone, all right? Difficulties getting pregnant and maintaining a pregnancy with low progesterone. Menstrual irregularities. Let me go back and say this. Difficulties getting pregnant. If you have an issue with progesterone and you're having difficulties getting pregnant, I can find a lot of women that will go in and go to fertility clinics and can get on all these medications. But the problem with that, you can get pregnant with a lot of kind of like help in that way. But now for the rest of your life, you still have this issue, this underlying hormonal imbalance that you carry with you, which makes postpartum healing even more difficult. It can make motherhood seem more difficult. It makes premenopause difficult. It makes menopause difficult. So that's why it's so important to really get to the cause of what's going on there. Menstrual irregularities, insomnia, and PCOS. So that's why I do like for, women when they're getting coaching with me, I want basal body temperature. I want to see cervical fluid. I want to see symptoms. Oh, you're having headaches? Where's the headaches? You're having gallbladder attacks? Where are those gallbladder attacks? You're feeling off. You're feeling bloated. Where are those things at? Because your menstrual cycle is a vital sign. Treat it as such. You would never ignore high blood pressure. You would never ignore racing heart rate. So why do we ignore this right here that gives us so much guidance about not only how to get pregnant, how to avoid getting pregnant, but really gives us this power of feeling like we can connect with our bodies and we can understand our bodies. So if this video was helpful for you guys, make sure you share it. This is, whenever I talk about hormones, it's one of our most popular topics. And if you have any questions, make sure to comment. Let me know that you guys enjoyed this video by commenting. The more comments I get and messages I get, the more I choose those topics that you guys are asking me to make these videos.